Okay, let's get into this. So this is pretty important to know about because in 2025, people are always asking me, are we getting more benefits? Are we getting less benefits? What's going to happen? So getting right to the point of this thing, we're going to be covering in this particular video, what are the 5 cuts to Social Security benefits that you can expect in 2025? Please remember to like and subscribe. Let's get right to number one. Number one, the Balancing Act cuts. You can expect when people get more of one government benefit, it will usually offset another. So if you get more money per month, your insurance monthly cost might go up, which means people aren't really getting more money. They're just kind of shifting and shoveling how much money they actually get to you from different sources or take away from you from different sources. This creates a lack of faith in the general citizen upkeep programs, which makes people ask why they work like this and why they have them to begin with. It's a nasty trick that politicians use to squeeze programs into a sunsetting situation. If you don't know what a sunsetting situation is, it's basically where governmental programs are not given enough funding and not given enough interest, and they basically erode to the point where the American people agree that they no longer need it in its current form. Number two on this list, the COLA fraud. The cost of living adjustment math, right? The math that they use to actually calculate it has been changed over the decades. The most fraudulent part about it is that if an item can't be purchased at a near similar price, the COLA will automatically and mathematically shift the purchaser's power to the next lowest tier of the purchase. Okay. So instead of calculating your ability to purchase steak, it will drop you down to your future ability to purchase ground beef and so on and so forth. When this happens, you get readjusted at the new lower standard. So when this happens, at this point, they have likely reached, considering everything, the lowest of these standards that they can downgrade you to. So the problem is that as a result of this constant downgrading for Social Security recipients, basically most recipients should be getting over $500 more per month since the calculations of 1999 forward to the current date. But as a result of changes in math, you get significantly less in cost of living adjustment every single year. So as a result of this, your benefits don't seem relevant in today's cost of living, in today's world. It's because the COLA math has been altered multiple times, resulting basically in you having a significantly smaller monthly check. Now, with that said, you don't notice it that much. And it's kind of an easy trick for them to play on you if, for example, they basically go ahead and have smaller inflation periods. So let's say you have an inflation of 1%, inflation of 2%, inflation of 0.5%, inflation of 1.5%. If this occurs, what you have to keep in mind is that you won't notice a lot of the cost of living adjustment, math hurting you. But when you have a massive decrease in the value of the dollar like we've had under the past 3.5 years, unfortunately, it becomes very evident that everybody is getting screwed out of their yearly increase for cost of living adjustment. So that's another cut you're going to feel. Number 3 on this list, the little cuts that only policy insiders and attorneys notice. There are emergency policy changes, new SSR rulings, modified POMs, updated HALEX rules, and so on and so on. The cuts come in the form of it taking more effort to obtain your benefits, more effort to reach someone on the phone, more effort to get your medical appointments, more effort to obtain your medical records. These little cuts that make it hard for you to interact with your benefits are another way the government has allowed the benefits to devalue over time. Once the benefit reaches a certain point, people won't value them. And that's when they get to change the program because people won't care as much across the spectrum of users for these benefits, which is not good because then you'll have a lot of people voting on them who aren't currently receiving for them, but are currently paying for them, which is kind of an unfair way of saying the voting population that'll be larger will be the working class, and they will vote very likely to screw over those who are on disability benefits, retirement benefits, etc. Now remember, when they want to change Social Security in a big way, they need the support of their voters, which means, when the politicians look at this, they look at, okay, are 51% of my voters going to support this? Is my district, is my location going to support this? But the small cuts, those are done every day in different ways. The harder they make it to access and keep your benefits, the more likely you will one day see them changed without your actual will, holding the steering wheel of the boat as it sails through the sea. Now, the reason why this is that at the end of the day, the Americans that are paying for it are going to dictate what happens to the benefits, which is not a great thing for those who are retired. and those who basically can't work who are on disability benefits. Now, if people don't respect the benefits, right? If they keep reducing them and making people pay more and pay more for them, then the politicians have you where they want you. So, basically, putting it simply, in a state of depression, willing to modify the program, you'd be willing to, if you're depressed and you're anxious and you're tired and you can't afford things, you'd be willing to modify the program so that your generation might see some of the money you paid in, but the next generation or the generation after that wouldn't. And then once you start down that road of, shooting basically people in the back with the, millennials and things like that, what happens is you start getting voter blocks that are against the older generation. And as the older generation starts to pass away and there's fewer of them, meaning when there's an erosion of, basically the boomers, what will happen is you'll see the younger generation starting to vote away retirement in total for the system that we currently have. So not a good situation. It's a very tricky spot. Princess05 donated $2. I super appreciate it. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So the next thing is number 4, the political cost cuts. Under the Obama era, COLA math and issues and low ALJ approval rates plagued the Social Security system. Under the Trump era, significant culture changes made getting disability benefits much more likely for older people and much less likely for younger people. The SSA was also underfunded to administer the benefits. Under the Biden era, massive amounts of immigrants are being put on SSI, which is a direct hit to your tax money being spent on you. Along with this, improper handling of the petrodollar caused widespread inflation, with the most harm towards fragile individuals being you, the disabled, the retired. So each politician has harmed the SSA in some way. We need a president to fix the economy. And then we need a president that cherishes the SSA to fix the trust funds and the COLA calculations. Just keep that in mind for the next couple of presidential rounds, because it's going to be important for you to continue to receive your benefits at the level that you are. Now, the final one is the snitch cost. This used to not really be a thing, right? You see it a little bit here, a little bit there, but it wasn't widespread. Now it is. The snitch cost. The Social Security disability recipients are well aware of the CDI units, being the secret police of the SSA. Okay, I made some explanation videos about the VA OIG details. That's the veterans OIG, and veterans were frankly hostile towards me for putting the information out there of where the VA compensation program is going and how it will parallel the SSA OIG setup. Now, 2 years later from those videos, other YouTubers that focus on VA benefits are explaining how the OIG is lessening veteran compensation percentages and how people are reporting veterans. A lot of these reports come from people who are jealous or concerned citizen soldiers. When I reported on this stuff, I got a lot of shit for it. Why? I'm always just right ahead of the ball, just right ahead of it. And what happens with that is people aren't expecting it. They don't know. It makes them feel uneasy. And then that damn thing happens 2 years later, 5 years later, whatever. And then all of a sudden, oh, everybody's so relevant and on top of it. When I covered it many years before, it just frustrates me. It frustrates me, but I think people are becoming more open and aware to the realities of the negativity that can be caused by these programs. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these reports come from people who are de facto jealous, where they report you to the SSA or even the VA, right? Some of them are these concerned citizen soldiers, but bottom line, most people don't like working all day and getting paid less than a VA person who has an SSDI or potentially, well, they wouldn't have an SSI check if they were getting 100% P&T. Now, each month, dual program recipients actually get paid more than me because of how taxes work. So just as a little side note, you know how people think that the working class is making a lot more than the disabled and things like that? That's not accurate for veterans in many situations. A lot of veterans are getting basically, their 4,000-ish P&T, and then they get another 2,000, 2,500-ish in SSDI benefits on top of that. And that's what I tend to see a lot of. That means per month, what they receive without taxes applied, for the most part, they are getting paid more than I am. And I work all day, work all night, work all the time, work all the time. And so you have to understand from that perspective, if you just take a moment and realize, even though you're like, I don't have enough benefits, it's more than a lot of people are getting paid that are working a job all the time. So you're going to see a lot of people without compassion for the disabled attacking the disabled, snitching on the disabled going forward. Now, here's the thing. It wasn't always like this. 20 years ago, people made a lot more money as a comparison. Okay. And the reality is this, people are making so little money now that the VA benefits plus SSDI benefits combined are usually more than most people are making in a month. So here's the thing. When it comes to the middle class, saving doesn't really exist anymore. It's that pretty much people are just, having to use their credit cards to survive. So they don't have cash on hand and they're purely credit card rolling over from month to month. So, just understanding that the veterans and the SSDI recipients, they get their check. Obviously, SSDI people don't get much, but veterans plus SSDI, they're doing very well. One thing that I need you to be aware of, and you always see videos, from this channel, other channels, stuff like that talk about essentially how these jealous neighbors, how these jealous other people, can go ahead and report you. But what you don't hear about them saying is that even if you are quiet about your benefits and the receipt of them, there's really no way for you to essentially hide that you're on disability benefits. So let's talk about this. Let's say that you openly advertise that you want to tax the working class more for your benefits. That's going to tell people what's going on. Or tax someone more because of their skin color, which is very popular on the Democratic Party side right now. Then expect that those two things are triggers for people and they'll probably take interest in you. And that's something you have to watch out for. You don't want people to take an interest in you as a disabled person. A lot of people, and I know the veterans know this, but a lot of people think that if they don't talk much to other people or they don't bring up their disability benefits, then they will never know that they are on disability benefits. But that's 100% false. Absolutely false. The moment your SSA info gets into the wrong mailbox, or they see your car parked outside of the SSA field office, or you have a walker or whatever, and they know you don't leave for work and the car's just sitting there all day. They know. They instantly know. When a lot of you guys say like, well, they don't know. My neighbors don't know. How would they know? No. They know. They absolutely know. Like all the people watching this video right now, somebody knows that you didn't tell that you're on disability benefits. They know. So you just have to be careful with that because there's going to be a snitch tax, which is basically people reporting people just because they're jealous and angry. So just be aware, realize that the snitching on you cost associated with the anxiety and CDRs and CDI units is a very real cost to be careful of. Now, just to summarize again, what are the top 5 costs? Then I'm going to go ahead and take a break and then come back in about probably about a half an hour. There's the balancing act cuts. That's where you can expect where if they give you an increase here, they'll decrease other benefits here. There's the COLA fraud cost, how much extra you get per year. They've switched the math over multiple decades and you're getting significantly less than you should, which is obviously worse in high inflation years. The little cuts, which are SSRs, HALEX, PALMs, things like that basically reduce your benefits. They're not good. They happen all the time. They make it harder for you to go ahead and get your benefits and keep your benefits. The political cost cuts, knowing that each president we receive basically has things that they do that changes the culture of the SSA and the political environment that exists in. Similar to the current situation, the SSA is massively underfunded, which was the same kind of gig under the Trump administration. But bottom line is Congress needs to act. It can't just be the president. It can't just be the commissioner. Congress needs to act. And then, of course, the final one, which is the snitch cost, which is that people will go ahead and snitch on you and tell the SSA potentially truthful things about you that might make you look bad for the purposes of disability benefits, or potentially they could go ahead and say lies about you. And then the SSA has to send somebody out to investigate and begin the process, so on and so forth. Don't underestimate that last one, the snitch cost. It's hard to explain. I've represented a lot of people. I know people that have turned people in who call me up and say, "Oh, this person's a cheater. This person's a liar." Blah 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 blah. Here's the one thing I need you to understand about the snitching that happens. Okay, a lot of people they could see you in a state of poverty and be like, "Oh, they don't have much," but they would still be jealous that you can stay at home. And I'm going to say a couple of things, and some of you guys will disagree, of course, but some of the biggest snitches that I've seen are women that are working when they know somebody else that gets to raise their grandkids or raise their kids as a result of being disabled and not having to go to a job. That's one of the biggest arenas that I've seen of people getting reported. It's just women stabbing women in the back. It's a terrible thing, but I've seen that a lot. The other thing I've seen are siblings that had a falling out. Absolutely terrible. They'll go ahead and stab each other in the back. They'll report the disabled person to the SSA and claim that they're this, and that. It's a very, very terrible thing, and it's going to continue. There's no way around it. The other thing too that I need you to think about is the veteran side of it. Wives of husbands. What I've noticed is that, okay, so let's say you have two husbands, two wives, right? And the wives will get friendly, and the husbands will tell their wife stuff and blah blah blah, and then those wives will share information with each other and yada yada. Somehow down the line, that always ends up being a bad deal for the veteran. It just ends up being a bad deal because the wives will get angry about something. Could be political, could be, it's not cooking. It's not, but it could be like, talk, and you never know what's going to set people off. Could be talking about how kids should be reprimanded. Could be talking about the future of political party affiliations. Could be, talking about, things that they would do that the other person wouldn't do, whatever. But that just never for veterans. The two husbands, each has a wife. The wives get together and they talk and they, connect with the information their husbands have shared with them. It almost never works out well for the veterans because when they go ahead and have a situation where one of the wives will report the other veteran, and the problem is what happens is they call in, OIG opens a report, and it could be at the SSA or the VA, and they go through this process of ramping up to, essentially review the individual. The kicker is this. I foresee in the future that as much OIG activity we're seeing with the SSA, there will be more OIG activity with the veterans. Here's why. If you recall the history of basically the snitch situation, the whole reason OIG really took off, they made them do all these investigations, see on who was fibbing, etc., is that in the veteran field, there's a lot more people who have the can-do attitude. Like, I can do this, I can do anything. They have also better physical conditioning, right? Because they come from that world. And they also tend to do a lot of things that you would not expect a disabled person to be able to complete. So as a result of that, what doesn't help is that when 9/11 happened, remember the Twin Towers, that kind of situation that day, basically they were looking at those individuals who claimed they had PTSD, and then all over the internet, there were photos of them riding around on jet skis and having vacations all the time. So, what you have to understand is that, and here's what happens to the veteran guys with the whole snitching problem. So the veterans will go ahead and usually get a couple of checks. They'll get a VA compensation check. They'll get an SSDI check, and then they'll get usually a law enforcement pension check. Those are kind of like the things that they traditionally get. And so with all those checks combined, sometimes they're pulling in, it could be $8,000, $9,000 a month just in pension-y types of checks, right? Disability VA compensation, SSDI, SSA, and then of course their sheriff, police, whatever pension. Could be FedGov pension. For law enforcement, etc. When that happens, that individual is in a spot where they're making more than most individuals who are essentially working, day in and day out. And, basically if they can get it, set up the way that I see a lot of them do, they'll be in their latter 40s, early 50s, and they'll have a massive check coming to them through multiple programs, multiple pensions. You almost always find that somebody will go ahead and snitch on them, and it's a cost. It's a terrible cost because the jealousy factor of people having stuff is just going to keep going up and up and up and up. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, unfortunately, the thing is, and there's also a problem with the disabled and the working class. The disabled, once you've been on disability benefits for 5 years, you have lost connection with what's going on in the work world, right? You've totally disconnected from it. It's disconnected from you. 5 years later, you don't know what's going on in the work world. You're not part of it. And nobody's saying it's a bad thing. That's part of your disability. It's part of the what process of it. But after 5 years, you're totally disconnected. Like if somebody came to you and said, "Look, I'm going to take away all your impairments. Within 1 week, you have to go back to work," you would be like, your anxiety would be over the moon. You wouldn't know how to deal with it because you've completely removed yourself from the work environment at that point. So some people want to go back to work, but that's limited numbers. So the thing that happens with all this is that people are in such bad shape financially now that as a result of this whole bad economy, petrodollar misuse, people having a hard time buying food because it's just obnoxiously expensive for the mega corporations making it that way. And of course, didn't help with the production standards and all the EPA rules and stuff like that. And the whole anti-diesel thing, the whole anti-diesel thing was just moronic at the highest levels. So, but the bottom line is this, you basically have people who are suffering, and the disabled are very like, I'm on disability benefits, I'm disabled, I'm suffering. So they're not super duper focused on the health. And I get why, but it's always been odd to me why the disabled and retired haven't been focused on the health, basically of essentially the working class. So the real reality here, the real problem here is that the health of the average working individual is so strained. It's in such difficult of a spot that I think, realistically, we have to get the health of the working class better because that is the lifeblood of the Social Security programs. A lot of people suggest taxing the middle class more, and then taxing the wealthy. The wealthy are never going to get these new taxes. In fact, the video we're doing after this is covering the 2100 Act and basically what's going on in Congress and how it's just like a no, it falls on deaf ears. Unfortunately, it's not good. I see here, St. Peter said, "Why aren't you talking about means testing for future recipients? Spend down savings until you need Social Security. Should multimillionaires get Social Security? I see means testing as a future strategy." We have that. We have that for SSI benefits. We have exactly that. We already have that. That is what we use for SSI benefits. SSI benefits are a means tested program for poverty based individuals who had to spend down whatever they had to get to that point if they didn't pay into the program. If you paid into the program, you get to get your benefits, whether you're a millionaire, a billionaire, or a millionaire. The reason why it's that way is because that's the only fair way to do it. If you pay into the system, you should get to reap the benefit of having the benefits that you paid for. Screwing over the millionaires and billionaires who paid for something and not giving them anything is basically the Democratic, and that is the literal number one thing the Democrats want to do. They want to go ahead and raise the FICA tax cap on pretty much all earned income and then give the millionaires and billionaires that earn that much more money absolutely nothing new, nothing more. So, which is unconstitutional. And it's also just because remember, it's tied to a specific program for taxation for trust funds for their benefit. So it's got problems. They haven't worked through those. There's better ways to do it, but we're going to be covering in the next video specifically the 2100 Act, which goes through that. But no, we already have a means tested program. That's what all the immigrants are on. They're coming into this country. The immigrants are on a 7-year SSI program, the SSI, Supplemental Security Income Disability. Individuals that are disabled that don't have enough paid in for the quarters of coverage, they're going on to SSI, get their $943 per month. Then, of course, people over 65 who are impoverished, means tested again, they go on it as well. So, bottom line is this: look, if you wanted a fix, like if we are, and maybe that's something we should think about. If we wanted the fix to these things, the Balancing Act cuts, Congress is finally starting to make legislation that if you get this, they're not allowed to lower anything else. They're finally starting to create that legislation where they're getting this and they're not allowed to. So, you get this, but they're lowering your food stamps. You get this, but they're lowering that. They're finally getting statutes created where they're not allowed to offset things based off of what you get. So that's a good thing. The COLA fraud, honestly, that is, if you want to know the greatest conspiracy theory that turned out to be true in America for defrauding Americans out of their Social Security benefits, out of trillions of dollars, that would be the COLA fraud. That would literally be the COLA fraud. That's the reality of it. And that might be able to be sued because that's based off of math that was created to increase benefits. That was a promise to the American people to be fair. The only kicker is it all links to a 1937 Supreme Court ruling, which says this is all just a tax. You don't really get any promises. So you'd have to fight it somewhat on politicians making promises, you relying on those promises and paying into the FICA taxes as a result. The problem is FICA taxes, you don't really get to choose what to pay. They automatically take it from your check. 3, the little cuts. So when Trump was in, Commissioner saw anything that was pro-claimant, that like somebody sued, like if an attorney sued the SSA and it was a pro-claimant portion of their policy handbook, Commissioner Saul, like the next year, would come out with a new handbook that did not have that provision that was pro-claimant. They were very aggressive at effing over the claimant with the rules and regulations that would support them. It was a very pro-SSA time. It sucked. It was very anti-claimant. It was very like, we're in control of your money. We're in control of your benefits. Suck it. And that's the problem. That's why I've been so anti-Commissioner Saul, which was a Trump appointee, because he's great at running a business. He could run a business and be aggressive. That was his thing. But that's not what we need in a nonprofit style corporation such as the Social Security Administration, whose underlying theme is we take money from you because you suck at saving. That's it. That's the whole program. That's the whole point of the program. That's going on with it. Furry plants and coins. What's going on with that lawsuit? Which lawsuit? Do you mean the one against the Louis D. O'Malley one? Which one? There's a lot of lawsuits going on right now that O'Malley is part of. Let's see. Chessboard said, solution, put Congress on the same system and money would magically appear. Not necessarily. Here's why. When people say, go ahead and put all the congressional leaders, the Democrats and the Republicans and the House and the Senate and everybody on Social Security benefits, they already are on it. The difference is basically all of these senators, House reps, they all make some pretty good coin, writing books and doing things like that. And, as a result of that, real quick, they're not relying on their Social Security benefits. Almost all of the actual politicians at the federal level are not super reliant on their Social Security benefits at the end of the day. They always have assets, money put aside. And just to be fair, so you guys, are on kind of the same level with how this stuff all works. Most of the, Money Watch or the analytical, financial, actuarial YouTube channels are very, very, very popular. And the reason why is men are in a situation where they can't afford to achieve these great levels of wealth like they were hoping to be, and so they watch these money channels, and these money channels are very, very popular, like Meet Kevin, stuff like that. But the bottom line with it is that America is a capitalism game. You either get enough money what it comes down to is you get enough borrowed money to buy things, turn them into mini corporations, whether it's a business, you're doing goods, you're doing sales, you're doing rentals, you're renting a house, you're renting you're renting a big operating machine, you're renting out your silo, you're renting out parking spaces, you're selling widgets and gadgets and this and that. The point is, America is a capitalism game. Those who are able to work the longest in the capitalism game are expected to potentially achieve the highest amount of gains to no longer need Social Security benefits, whether in disability or retirement form. So the reality is that these politicians doing these political jobs, they've already got money. And if they didn't, once they got elected, they certainly were able to go ahead and increase it based off of their popularity, their position, etc. So, with the COLA, yeah. So here's the problem with the cost of living adjustment lawsuit. In order to sue them, right, it would cause great bias against my clients with the law firm. So I have to be careful with that. Number 2, the problem is that the 1937 Supreme Court ruling says none of this money that they actually give to us back is really ours. It's just a tax. FICA tax is a tax. They have programs to distribute these funds to us, but at the end of the day, structurally, if this thing went to the Supreme Court, it would rule that these benefits are truly just a tax, which means that if we sue them, we are suing them with the idea that we have a privatized right to these benefits, which we do not. We do not have a privatized right to Social Security benefits. That shocks a lot of people. A lot of people are like, what the hell? And bottom line is this: it's tough. It's not a good thing. RFK. So remember how we have Harris, Trump, and then we had RFK. RFK was the first one to come out and say, "Hey, we need to give people an actual legal right to the Social Security benefits. That way, they can hold the government accountable." And I've been preaching that for decades. And so the bottom line is that was a really great thing. But you won't see Trump and you won't see Harris saying that they want to give Social Security recipients an actual legal right to their benefits. They will keep them as they are. And the way they are is that they hold all the cards. We're not allowed to basically sue them for the most part when it comes to, things of that nature of cost of living adjustment, because the math that they use is based off of taxes that they take from us, that they essentially own that money. So when you think I'm paying in my money for my future retirement, no, you're paying in your money as a tax, and they have a program that distributes it to you. But at the end of the day, if you have to sue them to try and collect those benefits because they don't want to give them to you for some reason, they can go ahead and not give them to you. And that was what the 1937 Supreme Court claim was. They said somebody was a communist and exported them out of the country, because you remember back then, communism was that's how they treated that stuff, because World War II was on the horizon, etc. But bottom line was that they said he was a communist, sent him to another country. He sued to have, his monthly check of retirement benefits paid to him because he paid into the system. They said, nope, it's just a tax. You have no right to it. So it's not a great situation with that. Now, with that said, the final thing is the snitch cost. The problem I foresee going into the future is that you're going to see more and more and more individuals, calling the SSA to bitch about disabled, claim that the veteran really isn't that bad. I foresee the most likely thing where, veterans are basically losing their benefits. I see that most likely occurring and ramping up quickly. And here's why. Veterans live, when they're disabled, all kinds of lives. But when it comes to active, going on vacations, going fishing, having extra money to go and do stuff, going on, group gatherings, stuff like that, doing little side jobs, stuff like that, they're way more active with that, way more active. So as a result, what happens with that is you're going to see, very, very jealous Americans who are working all the time, basically reporting these individuals and saying they're not truly disabled. And, and here's the problem: SSA VA and SSA OIG, they're talking the same language, they're sending the same reports to each other. So what could potentially happen, which was just horrible, is that somebody could snitch on a VA person to the VA, and then all of a sudden his SSA benefits are being pulled too because of the ROI that's been created, which is like the report where they assess that individual. I feel like that would be realistically the future of where all this stuff is going, when it comes to veterans basically getting kind of the short end of the stick when it comes to receiving benefits. And, the thing was, the VA wants to constantly reduce the amount of benefits that they're paying out, constantly reduce the amount of pay they're paying out. And so as a result of that, the SSA is in the same kind of spot. You're seeing the doors of access, right, to these benefits closing, and people aren't able to get access to those benefits like they would hope. So the problem, to be fair, with this whole thing is that the government didn't spend money on its American citizens. It promoted the identity of spending money on foreign interests, spending it on other countries, spending it on, putting military camps in other countries, spending it on immigrants coming into this country. And as a result of that, people are kind of pissed because Americans are sitting there with, basically this massive debt. Let's see, what is the, hold on, let's see what the actual debt is at today. Hold on. Total US debt. Let's see what it's at today. So it's definitely over. So it's, let's see, hold on. Let me see if I can get the Department of Treasury up here. Oh, won't even load the website. Hold on. Let me see. Key takeaways, national debt. This doesn't have it. Hold on. Let me see. Debt to the penny. All right, here we go. It is at 35 trillion, 346 billion, 469 million, 569,597 and 74 cents. So we are spending more on our interest payments at this point than we are most of our military details. We're spending more on our interest payments than what we are spending basically on the education of our youth. It's so incredibly bad. There's no way, like when people talk about Harris is not an economic wizard or just, or I don't know, whatever you want to call her. She's not good with the economy, right? So if she gets in, expect 4 years and there's going to be depression, stuff like that. It's not going to be great. If Trump gets in, everybody's expecting him to just magically turn it around. There's no way. $35.3 trillion in debt. There's no way. There's no way to spin that around. There's never been a country in the history of humankind that has ever been this in debt or even close to it. Like, this is just so unique. It's just so massive. So Princess05, thank you for the 99-cent donation. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Love it, love it. So bottom line is this. People are not living well on disability benefits. The only ones who are disabled that are living financially okay are the veterans, and they deserve more. They do. Let's call it like it is. They put themselves in harm's way. With that said, the working class is now earning many people are earning less than what the veterans get in their combination of disability and VA compensation benefits. It's just one of those things. You know what I mean? Look, and then this is a point. I had to explain this to a veteran because he got upset with one of the staff members. I had to walk him through it. And he was trying to explain to me why somebody turned him in. And I was like, dude, I get it. But here, what's the average income of USA worker? Okay, so let's see what that is, what it comes up with. Let's see. So average USA worker, it's all over the place, but let's just say, I don't know, let's just go with like 64,000, maybe a little bit. No, a little bit less than that. So let's just say 61,000-ish. Okay. Now, if you take regular VA, and we're not going to do the cents, just the dollars, and we pull up a calculator, right? And you go ahead and pull up a calculator and you go look at the basics here. So you take a total of, you take your 4,000, you take, let's just say he's got 2,000 in SSDI, but sometimes it's more. So you got $6,000, you multiply that by $12. And remember, there's no taxes on this thing, right? For the most part, unless they're earning above that. Then you're looking at $72,000. So if somebody is working full-time on average in America, that person who is working full-time on average, if they made, like, let's say $61,000. Well, hold on. Let's see what it would be. Let's take whatever. What's an average income state? Let's see what we got. Massachusetts. There's no way that, well, I think that, no, there's no way California, Connecticut, Maryland, or New York are. They're all blue chips with horrible abuse to the worker. All right, average salary by region. The Midwest is Illinois, 63,930. But let's just, okay, so how much taxes? Let's just do this. How much taxes would you pay on $61,000 per year? So you would lose, that means your net pay will be $50,146. So let's say $50K. So if you subtract $72,000 from $50,000, the average veteran, right, that's receiving $2,000 in SSDI benefits and $4,000 in VA compensation 100%, that's got, like, VA compensation 100% plus whatchamacallit, your 2,000 SSDI, is earning, with no taxation of that, $22,000 more than around the average worker after they pay taxes. So maybe that's the best way to see it logically, if you can imagine it. Somebody who's disabled receiving benefits is earning essentially $22,000 more than the average worker. So just let that sink in. So like when people are like, let's tax the middle class, there ain't no money. There's no money. In fact, the middle class is having a shrinking problem where they can't afford to basically continue to pay FICA taxes. So there's no money. They don't have money. And then remember, on top of that, much of that working class has student loans. Let me find out what the average student loan payment is. Average student loan payment. Because the VA people don't have that per year. It's going to be way less than what I pay. All right, the average student loan payment in the United States is between $200 and $300 a month. So let's say, all right, so let's say 250 times 12 equals, so you're looking at $3,000. So if you add the student loan thing, because the veterans aren't going to have student loans, if you add the additional amount there of student loans, then the average veteran that would be receiving, we're doing rough numbers here, 2,000 in SSDI and 4,000 in compensation, VA compensation, 100% P&T, who has the 100% rating, would be making basically $25,000 more than the average worker per year. That is mind-boggling. That is just mind-boggling. I mean, think about that. Think about that. Somebody who works all day is earning $25,000 less than a veteran getting $2,000 in SSDI and $4,000 in VA comp. That is mind-boggling. That's shocking. It's shocking because you would think, and that's not the veteran's fault, right? Some of you are sitting there like, "Whoa, why do the veterans make so much?" They don't. They don't. That's not a lot of money. It's what's shocking is how shitty the pay is for the average American. That's one of the things. Like, I guess the point of what I'm trying to tell you is the average American, the middle class American, doesn't make shit. They have credit card debt, student loans. They have no savings. There's no cash on hand. They don't make shit at this point. So, James Moody, let's see. Thank you for the $5 donation. That's awesome. Let me put a little heart on there. He said, if we stop spending today, the debt will still increase to $48 trillion within the next 8 years. Yeah, I believe it. The problem is that when you take out that much money, so the SSA, right, and the government and the U.S. Treasury, if they spend money, right, so basically they go ahead and they print money, it'll destroy our reserve currency with other nations using it, which destroys our currency. If they take more loans, which nobody will give us money, then basically we are more in debt and we just can't afford to pay them. We can't afford to pay the ones right now. We have teetered past the point of actually being able to pay them. So they're going to have to start printing money to just pay the debt that's due, or they're just going to have to magically screw over people and forgive the debt, or they're going to have to do a World War III, which is, I think, exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, that's what I see. That's what I see happening. It's scary. It's really scary. I'm going to catch you guys in about, I would say, like 30, 40 minutes. I'm a little bit tired today. Just as a heads up, I have to be on a flight tomorrow. So if you call the firm tomorrow, just quick heads up, I'm flying up to New Jersey. I will be back on Sunday. I will be working on law firm stuff throughout the week, but I will be doing landscaping stuff and then flying back. I hope you guys are basically ready to go see what happened to the 2100 Act. I'm going to be playing you the direct video that comes from actual Congress footage, and we're going to be talking about what's happening and the big problems that they're facing, so you can kind of see with your own eyes why I have to calm myself down. And I have to catch myself too. I can't pull that shit if I'm ever a judge. I can't, you know what I mean? So I have to I'm going to show you guys how these congressional leaders actually respond to clear and basic math as to why they need to support Social Security benefits. And there's crickets. No rah, rah, rah. We love it. We're excited. Crickets. Please remember, if you like this channel, if you like the ideas where we get to talk about things, I want to be doing more case law videos too, because I just feel like that's something that I can explain to you guys. And I feel like it's one of the things I haven't done because I just didn't want to make the videos too tough. But I feel like if I can get my groove right, I can actually explain to you the federal district circuit and Supreme Court rulings related to Social Security benefits, including the commissioner of the SSA, which if you guys are on board with that, I do this stuff all the time. That's part of the law firm. We should review them. We should go through them. So anyways, bottom line is this. Please remember to like and subscribe. There's 390 people in the chat or in the viewer. Only 161 have liked. Please hit that like button. Don't be stingy. Also, head on over to Disability Resolution Law Firm on Google. Throw some review stars up there. We always love seeing those in the morning. With that said, also, bottom line, I will catch you guys at the next video, about 30, 45 minutes. We're going to be going over the 2100 Act. And finally, if you want to buy an hour of time where we go ahead and catch up during that hour of time, that is fine. The little mini contract is below. I will catch you guys a little bit later, and I will see you in about 30. Well, give me about 45 minutes. I just need a little bit of rest period, and we will go from there. Thank you so much, and I will see you in about 45 minutes. Sounds good. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.